Alright, how's it going guys? AlphaYGO back again, and today I'm bringing you the promised profile of the structure decks as mentioned in the previous video, but today I actually kind of came up with an idea where I wanted you guys' opinions. Would you guys like me to start a budget series or like a sealed series similar to Nimnim's where he is only using sealed product but with a twist? I want you guys to tell me whether you want me to use only sealed product or with a very limited budget. For example, like I'll use X amount of money using only sealed product, or even less amount of X money on singles, because I want to mimic the difficulty of some people who really don't have that much money for this game. So it's kind of like, imagine like $30 a month, you have to keep upgrading your deck with that $30 a month only to make it as viable as possible in today's metagame. I would really love to hear you guys' opinions, and I think this deck is a very fun way to start off the series. Obviously Salamangreat's a good option, but I think everyone already knows how that deck works, and it's already, you know, reached its peak or its prime, as well as like all the good cards you need for it to get better are actually just like really expensive staples, right? Like Phantasme and Imperms and whatnot. And for Endymions, I already have all of Pendulum and more, so it's kind of like I didn't feel like it was worth it for me to rebuild that deck from scratch. So I kind of thought this deck would be a fun way to start that, because I see a lot of potential in this despite the future Megatins coming out, you know, really hindering combo decks. I think this is a good way to really get going. So please let me know in the comments below what you guys want, what you guys think I should do. But I'm bringing you guys a promised $30 budget profile using only the cards from these 3 structure decks. And regardless, if I make a $30 budget out of just these 3 structure decks, this is what I would probably be starting my series with, so it goes kind of hand in hand. But without further ado, let's get started. We meet again, dreaded plastic. Alright, now let's get to it. Alright, we are back with the deck all nice and sleeved up. Using only the 3 structure decks and nothing else outside of it, we are ready to showcase off the profile. So let's just get right into it. Starting off our list is the standard, as you can imagine, 3 Rokket Tracer. Very powerful because we can just get so many good resources off of it. Next is our extender, which is Router Dragon. Router Dragon just functions where if we have a rocket monster on the field, it's just a free special, and that's just like instant link 2 or just generic extending plays. And obviously Rokket Tracer can just freely pop this Router Dragon, get a summon, and Router Dragon being sent to grave will be able to add us a rocket monster, so we just plus like crazy with just these 2. We also play 2 Silver Rokket Dragon. The reason we don't play more than 2 is because we don't really need to. Keep in mind, some rockets like Silver Rokket can't bring out other copies of themselves, so we basically kind of want to run a different array of rockets, not just too many of the same ones. And honestly, if you get to go into a duel where you get to rip 2 out from the opponent, that's usually more than enough. We also play 2 Rokket Synchron, basically our normal of the deck where we get to recur level 5 or higher dragon monsters. We only need 2 because we don't have too many ways to get level 5 or higher dragons into the grave, but it does come up, and running 2 is just fine. Moving on to the regular rocket lineup, we have 2 Magna Rockets to deal with our opponent's monsters, 2 Auto Rocket Dragon to deal with our opponent's back row, and the 1 Metal Rocket Dragon. And the reason is because unlike these 2, where if we just have them on the field, have one of our link monsters targeted to pop anything or send anything, Metal Rocket is different, where it's really good because you can hit 2 things, but at the same time you want it to line up with those 2 things, so it's better to bring it out once you pop one of these guys, right? So it's more better that we bring it out from the deck rather than starting with it on our board. Moving away from our rockets, we have a bunch of interesting techs that I personally like to play, which is DeFi Dragon, because as we know, it's a great extender. And, you know, just pitch 1 summon, fantastic. And a bit of an unconventional tech, Background Dragon. I actually like Background Dragon a lot because we're running 3 Shine in this build, and being able to just dump this special from hand, that's an instant link 2 or more, and it's actually really powerful. Of course, it's another level 5 Dark Dragon in the grave, unless it does get banished from its own effect, but nonetheless, it's very powerful in my opinion, but it's only a 1-of because we don't actually want to see it. I know this is very weird. World Chalice, guard dragon, because although we don't have IB or any of the guard dragon shenanigans, fun fact, this is actually a low-key hand trap, a protection hand trap, kind of like a Cerberus, but for link monsters. And when we have like our Borolo dragon just trying to go for games and get us a lot of advantage and like break boards, we want to make sure that he resolves properly. So I think running this little guy is actually pretty good because he has his protection. And so he's here because we can banish this little guy, special summon a normal monster from our graveyard to a zone a link monster points to, and with that play we can kind of accumulate a lot of value. And it is another one of, it's a brick, but it's actually not the worst actually, to be honest with you. I think it's an extra line of play that's actually kind of worth it. And of course you can remove this garnet, but I actually kind of like it, so feel free to try it out for yourself. Moving on to the spells, we have a triple quick launch, probably like the best card next to Tracer. Having those two together is phenomenal. Triple disco draw, basically our version of Pot of Greed in the deck. Basically allows us to, we can pop a rocket, get a new rocket at the end of the turn while we draw 2 cards. It's fantastic. And both of them being quick play cards work really well with Tracer, where we can chain them. So it's like this will remain on the field as chain link 1. Tracer can pop as chain link 2, and both of them will go off. So quick play cards are very, very powerful along with Tracer. We have Borolo Generator as well. At 3, basically our monster reborn, but with some drawbacks, but with some benefits as well. 1 boost sector launch. It's a very like all-in card because you basically spit out your entire hand. It's a little risky, but at the same time, it's like it's kind of like one of your last ditch moves or a very, very hard committed move when you know you can like go for a lot of big pushes. So that is fine. I also run the 1 Borolo Supplier. So the reason I run this card is because it can be a decent like grind tool, because we might not, like when we keep investing into our giant link 4s and our links, maybe we don't have that big of a board presence, but with Borolo Supplier we can at least kind of accumulate some recur / value along with our Borolo generators, and you know, kind of keep us in the game if we can't OTK them, because keep in mind this deck didn't come with Borolo Sword, so we can't close out games that fast. So I think Borolo Supplier is pretty good at it, the way it is. Triple Dragon Shrine, because we're running stuff like Background Dragon, and I think this is a starter card that warrants with that combo piece, because I think those together are very powerful. We're running 2 Rapid Trigger. I think this card is actually really good because it basically makes your fusion monster very hard to like deal with low-key, although it gives you some restrictions, which warrants us playing the 1 poly, because I think sometimes you just want your monster to be able to attack non-special summon monsters. So I think this combination is pretty good, having access to both. I think you can cut down 1 and just run 2 fusion cards, because 3 is a little overkill, but you know, there's always room for improvement, especially if you want to add more cards in yourself. Lastly, we run 2 Twin Twister because back row is very painful, and being able to just secure free attacks is without having to worry about whatever back row that might be floating around the format at the moment. Getting rid of those is very good for you, obviously. And the reason we don't run 3 is because it can be a little cloggy, right? 2 is, I think, is a golden number for these. And just because there's only 1 trap, I'm just gonna stick with the spells. 1 0-day blaster. I think this is a good like form of disruption. Of course, like it sounds neg because you associate this deck is having your Borolo or your Topologic on board, and you're like, I get to pop 4 cards for getting rid of my link 4, meh. But if you have like a link 2 or a link 3, probably like a link 2, right? It's like getting rid of 2 cards, like a mediocre version of Salamangreat Rage, but you know, we kind of work with what we have, so I actually like this card for what it is. Following that, for the extra deck, we have 3 Borolo Dragon. Obviously, amazing card. When this card first came out, it was taking the metagame by storm, and now we have triple copies of it as common, and we get to just steal our opponent's boards like nothing. Following that, we only run 2 Topologic 0 Boros, because I was just thinking, like, running 6 Link 4s is kind of, it doesn't make too much sense, right? We're never going to have to bother going to every single copy. It's just one is more powerful than this one in my opinion, just because we already know how powerful Borolo is. But having this guy on turn 1 is actually very strong as well, because we get to just control the board, and we can do our little lock by putting him in the center. Following that, we also run 2 Triple Burst. Triple Burst is, in my opinion, he's pretty powerful, and he has abilities that you don't even like realize. Like if you still have him on the field later, you can get rid of him for another Link 2 in your grave, and that can be actually pretty powerful on its own. So I think 2 is fine. We would also run 3 Quad Burrow Dragon because he's part of various plays that you can make in combos. I think running 3 of him is just fine the way it is. I also then run 2 Booster Dragon. I actually like Booster Dragon a lot because he's super easy to make with just 2 materials. Keep that in mind. So it's just 2 materials, and he kind of does what the Burrow monsters do, where you can just target one of your rockets, and the stat change is negligible because you're just going to pop your rocket and do the effect that way. And finally, we're running triple of the Borlo Furious Dragon. Not only does he look sick, but he is very powerful in the way he's combo piece. He's a 3k beater. He does a lot of things for the deck. And at the moment, since we're running multiple fusion cards, I think it also warrants running him at full 3. As you can tell, that we're basically filled up all 15 extra deck spots. We have these 3 left over. I think you don't need to change the ratio. I think this play is just fine the way it is, but if you want to up one and get rid of the other, you still have the option to, obviously. Also, you might be noticing we didn't play this card, Gateway Dragon, even though he's a really good extender. Just the contingency where your opponent needs to control a Link monster for it to work is... I didn't think it was enough to warrant playing it. Like, I think maybe it's just the combo side of me thinking. I just thought, like, you know, the Dragon Shrine into Background Dragon curse / special was a little more viable, in my opinion. But honestly, this is a great card. You can also tech in and replace that bit of the engine. It goes either way, totally up to you. And not something we can always do for every structure deck, but this deck actually came with a lot of cool stuff, so we actually have a side deck for this deck. So our Third Twin Twister for those pesky back row decks, and along with that we're playing 3rd copies of the rockets that we have in our deck. So Magna, Silver, and Auto. This is to cater your rocket ratio more towards certain matchups, because if you're facing a more monster-based deck, you want to put him in. If you're facing a more back row deck, you want to put him in, etc. And we run the 1 NS Rocket Dragon just to sub him in, just to kind of fix our rocket ratios, because again, we don't want too many of the same ones because they can't bring themselves out. So honestly, I actually say you can play a 2nd NS Use Rocket instead of a Silver Rocket, because I still think that 2 is just fine in the main. Then we are also running 2 0-Day Blaster just for those big blowouts. You know, doesn't hurt. We're running triple Mirror Force because, you know, realistically it'll take a lot of people by surprise. When you're signing for going first, people are like, there's no way he's gonna flip anything that important. And you flip a Mirror Force and they're not prepared and you're just like, wow, what a blowout. And I'm just trying Mirror Force Launcher. It's not that great of a card in my opinion. It's pretty okay, it's not the best, it's not the worst, but you know, it could be anything else, so feel free to change this one. And of course, triple Red Reboot. Basically, when you're facing those pesky back row decks, you want this card because it will just make your life so much easier. Especially if you can go for like big swings of advantage and even maybe go for game. This is a great card. And the 1 Imperial Order because it's not 1, and we run it in the side because we still run a lot of spells that we need to kind of resolve, but at the same time, to blow out win against something like Striker, which is going to be really popular soon in my opinion. So having an auto win button against that deck where you can just drop a Borload at some point and just take the game by storm definitely warrants playing it. And also for Mirror Force, I know we have stuff like Magic Cylinder in the side, so low-key, if you wanted to play Magic Cylinder, I won't blame you because it's probably one of the most cheesiest way to win or take games. I don't really recommend it, but if you're a big troll or a big memer, then you know what, go for it. Why not? And with that said, guys, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'm running out of recording time, so I'm just gonna wrap this up quickly, but stay tuned for more content and keep an eye out for this deck. And with that said, I'll catch you guys later.